today was a pretty typical day, quite busy, and we have this system now where there's triage. That means I don't have to see so many people that have just a runny nose or little ache and pain, and quite a few ones that get through are seriously ill. They might have tumors, they might have a heart problem, it could be TB, it could be an abscess, maybe they need some kind of surgery. So it's quite a challenge. I mean, a lot of times you look at primary care doctors and they might see 20 or 30 patients a day, and of those 20 or 30, maybe one, or not even one, has some challenging thing. The rest are Boy Scout physicals, acne, psoriasis. But I have to scratch my head a lot because these aren't the everyday kinds of things, and I don't have very many ways to diagnose either because the laboratory doesn't help me. So I've got to be clever, and then I've got to know which of the few meds that I have might really help. It's frustrating that for quite a few people, there's no good answer. And then you have to sit down and talk to them and say, well, I think you have something quite serious. We'll try to do what we can to get you through it, but there's no guarantee that you're going to recover from this. And they're pretty accepting. I don't know if they're stoic, but when you think of their history, colonialism and the 24 years of genocide, that's about the worst you're going to get. This is still better than that. At least you're going to die of a disease, not somebody's not going to torture you to death or, rape you and kill you. So, then the other thing I think you could notice today is how gracious everyone is. I mean, yeah, a lot might come in the room at once and it looks chaotic, but they're not angry at me. They all want to be seen and they accept what you say. And they, okay, we'll try that, thank you. So in that way, it's a pleasure because my concern is, what can I do for this sickness that they have? Which it's nice to be able to focus on that. And some people, of course, have many, many complaints, and you know very well they're never going to all go away. So for those people, you got to ask them, how many kids do you have, and a bunch of other questions, so that they think you do care about them, and you want to get to know them, and their life is important. In that way, you make them feel a little more worthwhile. So it's just little things, I consider myself very fortunate that I have been able to find a place where this is the way I can work. And I can do teaching, I can build capacity, I can practice languages, I can try communication skills. Pretty much I can do what I think is right. Any other place I've been, there's always rules and committees and people overseeing things, and before you know it, you're not having as much fun anymore.
Well, didn't you say that East Timor has a lot of heart problems and a lot of tuberculosis?
That's true, and the teaching that I did to give away the new stethoscopes that came from the Rotary Club in Victoria, Canada, was all about those two things, tuberculosis and heart problems. And every person got at least 80% on the test. Nobody messed it up. That means they were listening, because they just sat down and did it afterwards. So actually we got through to quite a few people, and I chose what I thought were the essential things to learn. So I'm pretty happy about that.
Well, why don't you relate that case you had today of the person that came from Indonesia, and he had a brain tumor, and they said you're just going to have to die.
Well, yeah, that's pretty sad because first of all, he couldn't speak any Tetuan. Then here's a young guy, and he can't move his right arm. You can see that right away. It's just paralyzed. Well, either he was born that way, or else some tragic thing has happened. He couldn't walk very well. He had to kind of manipulate his way into the room and, kind of stumble in.
Yeah, I thought I.
And then he's only got a short history. This has just come on over a couple of months.
Battery pack for it?
Dang. Well, I looked inside his eye and I couldn't see any sign of increased pressure in his brain. But obviously he's got some serious neurological damage in there. Then he said he had, what I think about is, could it be a ball of TB pushing in his brain, which happens, called tuberculoma. Then he said he had already taken TB meds, but when we pinned it down, he hardly took any of them. So really, there's still a chance he could take that and it might help. So we'll try it. That's what we're trying now.
And last of all, because that's too many things to relate, there's a huge amount of babies that have abscesses, infections, and what about that baby today when he looked normal, except his head didn't exactly look right, and when he took off his t-shirt, one arm was swollen with all kinds of nodules on it. What was that?
Yeah, I think he had an infection in his skin and also in his scalp. And we had the other one that had the dreadlocks, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was filled with nits. Well, you're almost going to have to cut that off. Do you think you're going to be able to pull all those out of there somehow? And you can't really, we don't have the right shampoos, and they don't necessarily get rid of them all. He needs to be a Yule Brenner cut. So, you do what you can, and if you're lucky, you can find ways to help most people. But there's always going to be some that are going to give you problems.
You said there's like all the infections and stuff all over the skin. A lot of it's bacterial, and a lot of it's viral, and fungus.
We had a kid 2 weeks ago. He was covered from head to foot with the most severe case of chickenpox. I mean, I seriously thought it might be smallpox, but it was chickenpox. And then we found out he's HIV positive. Nobody had known. That's why it got so bad. He had absolutely no resistance, you know?
Old age, yeah. Thank you so much.
So he's getting better now, but he's on the virus medication too.
Oh, that's another thing too. You said there's a lot of HIV positive, and we already talked about tubercular patients in your clinic.
Because when you take a look at it, HIV attacks the same cells that protect you against TB. So therefore, once you get HIV, TB takes off.
Wow. And the most miraculous thing is yours is a free clinic, and would you like to tell us just a little bit how it's funded so that no one has to pay you?
Well, we start with the philosophy that access to health care and decent health care is a fundamental human right. Or we at least believe it should be accessible for everyone. So it is not acceptable that lack of funds keeps you from getting health care. So everything is free, and there's always pressure on us. Well, just charge $1 or $2. But by the time you start doing that, first of all, it's a bureaucratic entanglement. Secondly, some people won't be able to meet that. And those are the ones you really want to start working with. You know, we want to address the most marginalized, poorest of the poor, the people that live far away, the people that have never gotten a benefit, they've hardly had a voice to say anything. That's where we want to start. So let's just keep it free and do what we can. If we don't have something, we go get it and give it to them, you know?
And about who are the people right now that are helping fund the clinic?
Well, we have a website, and we have a Facebook page with a Biropite clinic, and on all of those sites there are ways that you can donate and even get a tax deduction. Whichever country you're from, there's a way you can do it. The trouble is, medications are expensive. We employ 90 people now, and we try to give them a decent wage, which means not decent at all by our standards. It's like $150 a month. What do you do with that? But that's what people get, and that's true throughout the third world. You know, the people don't get much at all. And then we have vehicles and gasoline. All of that costs. So we do have expenses. In fact, we're now, just for wages, going through approximately $25,000 a month, just to meet payroll. So we have to publicize, we have to go out, we have to spread the word, but we feel like our brand is pretty good. It's a free clinic, delivering all kinds of services, taking care of as many people as we can. So a lot of people can identify with that and give a little of whatever they can. And so far we've been able to get by.
And you do have an ambulance, and I believe they went up in the mountains and brought back a woman. And do you want to just talk about her? That's just like a typical example.
Okay, so she comes from about an hour away, and she's only 28 years old. She's paralyzed from the waist down. She cannot move her legs at all. Not only that, she can't move her eyes. When you tell her to look to the left, look to the right, she can't do it. Or one will go and the other one won't. So her nervous system, and then she's confused. She doesn't really know where she is. So she's confused. Her nervous system is all tangled up. And this has been going on for like 2 months.
Yeah, because she looked emaciated too.
Not only that, and then she says I'm urinating fine. But when you feel it, her bladder is huge. And they did put a catheter in there, and they got 2 liters. So I guess she wasn't urinating fine. So something is not allowing her to urinate because maybe she doesn't feel anything. Her legs do not move at all, and her eye muscles are bad. Most likely tuberculosis of the central nervous system. That's what we see. You know, you could say, well, maybe it's Guillain-Barré and all these things, but it was way too long. Guillain-Barré, and in 3 or 4 days, you're going to be getting paralyzed, not in weeks or months. So.
Well, thank you for this interview. I think everybody sees that it's important to find donors all over the world to keep this wonderful clinic going, because the Timorese people do not have the money for basic health issues. And it's fabulous that you're doing this, and I hope that we can find donors, and I hope people you're able to find more and more donors to keep this great clinic going. So thank you, Dr. Dan Murphy.
The interview of interviews. Wait